last week we went over, we saw the documentary, The Village of Peace.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose for showing that was so that we can see an example of a community in action. We're talking about community, we're talking about love, we're talking about those things. So to see a visual example of what a community does,
How it operates.
a community in action and functioning. And also it being a Hebrew community, seeing that in action. And what I hope is that we can pull out some of those principles and some of the values and we're able to see some of those things in there. As we're working towards building and becoming a community and becoming one, to be able to see, because we're reading the scriptures, but there's one thing to read the scriptures, but it's another thing to actually apply it and do it,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how that translates into our day-to-day lives. So, so hopefully we got something from that. On the notes, I didn't get a chance to really go through it, go through the questions and stuff, but on the first question, if you could write Romans 12 and 2, on the first and the last question, if you could just write Romans 12 and 2 next to that. And that was, the question was, to what degree am I still in love with or attached to this land, America, and its culture?
TV.
TV. It's a TV. And Romans 12 and 2 is, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you can prove what is the good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim, or the Most High Yah. So we talked about, when I talk about being attached to the culture, we've been talking about culture for a while. We showed that iceberg that has the things below it and the different things. So when we talk about culture, we're talking about those external things and the ideas behind why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So culture is the social behavior and the norms found in a society. So it's the social behavior and it's the norms that are found in a society. And the things that are the norms come from your beliefs. So like whatever is the norm of some type of action, whatever is the norm for everybody to do is based on some kind of common belief that's held by everybody in the group.
Can you repeat that one more time, Bill?
The culture is the social behavior and the norms found in a society. I said that the norms come from beliefs and practices. So a norm is just something that is normal for everybody to do, something that is irregular. In American society, it's a norm to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Those 3 meals a day. It's a norm to have meat with probably every meal. It's not that these things are right or wrong or whatever, but it's norm for this group of people. Where you might go to another country and they might eat meat once a month or a week, and that might be their norm. So culture is the social behavior and norms found in the society, and it's based on what you believe about it. So here they believe, okay, you need as much protein all day long, or whatever belief is behind that behavior or that practice. So there's beliefs that underlie that. So when Yah says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, he's saying that the world that we're in, there's things in it that are contrary to what he would consider to be a norm, or what he would consider to be the behavior that he wants to see from us. So we have to first change our beliefs and change our understanding and change our mindset so that we can not conform to what the world is saying is a norm, but conform to be transformed and conform to what Yah is saying is norm, so that it says we can prove what is his good and well-pleasing desire for us. So we have to be able to discern past what is, it's like we have these everyday things we become accustomed to, and we have to be able to have a discernment, have our minds renewed, so that we can discern, is this in line with what Yah would have us to do, or is it something that's just become a part of the culture that I'm a part of? So our culture comes from, we got American culture, we have, that's something that's just normal in America, that when you go to other countries, they'll be like, they'll spot us in a second, they'll be like, oh, that's an American, because of some kind of behavior that we're displaying, or some kind of attitude or disposition that they see is kind of like, okay, that's an American, because they see those type of things coming from us.
And you can tell a European too in America. If you just
Yeah.
see a European, it's something about the way they carry themselves, and
Yeah,
their dress looks similar, but it's not.
yeah,
It's something about their culture.
yeah, yeah. You know, saying it's different. You know, it could be their posture. It could, you know, just different things that are normal to different cultures. So, culture allows you to have a commonality, which where community comes from. You sharing community is people that share a culture in common.
Culture allows for commonality.
So it allows everybody to kind of be on the same page. And so we saw in the documentary, we saw that they had a standard that they lived by, you know, and this standard was based on Torah and based on the things that they agreed to amongst themselves. So that was the standard, and they all agreed to it. So that agreement allowed for that to come. So they have a shared commonality and they have a shared culture. So that allows for the community to function. It allows for there to be unity within that group. So I thought this was interesting. It says that culture comes from a Latin word, cultus, colo, colere, and those words can mean fostering, inhabiting, cultivating, tilling, maintaining, tending to, cherishing, worshiping, decorating, and adorning. And that word worshiping stood out to me because we know that we've talked about this before, that culture is usually surrounding some type of god, some type of idol. So a society usually has a god that's at the middle of wherever their culture is coming from. So the things that they're doing is usually emanating. It's coming from the beliefs of that particular god that they're worshiping. So that the culture. So we know that our Torah culture is coming from Yah. So the culture that we have in Torah is coming out of Yah. So it's reflecting those values.
Can you? I don't want to jump ahead of you, but can you, or at some point, can we explain the difference between culture and a cult?
Yeah, I'm giving it a talk.
Okay.
And because it's at the root of the word culture. Of course, it is cult, and a cult is a cult can be a break off of. So you have a larger culture, then a cult will be somebody that breaks off from that culture. It's a smaller group that has a different belief from the larger group. So they'll consider that a cult. So, but a cult is it depending on, like they call Christianity. Some would call Christianity a cult because it's a belief system that's different from another belief system. But Christianity would call a certain sect of, say, they would call Jehovah's Witnesses a cult, possibly, you know, because that's a different belief system. So it's something that breaks off from the lower group. So the word cult doesn't necessarily mean that it's a negative thing, but a cult in the mindset of that we are familiar with, usually it revolves around a certain idea or belief or person. So a cult will be surrounded like a charismatic leader that's kind of leading the group into a direction, or it'll revolve around a certain idea that most people would think is kind of sideways, that, you know, it's taken and it's all group of people kind of revolve around that particular belief and go into a direction. So that's the difference, whether or not a cult is just saying a group, because they called the when Paul was leading, it was called the Way, and they said he was the leader of a sect, S-E-C-T, called the Way, which is the same thing as saying a cult. So it's saying this is a break off from the bigger, what the other Jews believe. They're saying that this is a follower of the Way. So that wasn't a bad thing, but it was a break off.
Right.
So the difference is whether or not, you know, the use of the word cult is like the what do you call it, the root of the word culture, and also of the word cultivate. So the word cultivate is interesting. One of the meanings of the word cultivate is to prepare and use land for crops or gardening. To till, to plow, to dig, to turn. It means to break up the soil in preparation for sowing or planting. And to raise or grow plants. So to break up the soil in preparation for sowing or planting is one of the meanings of cultivate. So we talked a few weeks ago about Jeremiah, where Yah tells us to break up your unplowed ground. And he's talking about the hearts of the people. He says, break up your unplowed ground. So he's telling them to till the ground of your heart, so that it's fertile and receptive to the word that I'm trying to plant into you, so that your heart will be ready to receive and to act. So the word cultivate comes into the same meaning of being able to prepare your heart. So a culture, children grow up in a culture, and their hearts are open, their soil is ready, and whatever that culture is putting into it for their beliefs and standards, those are seeds that's being planted in, and they're going to grow up conformed to that particular culture. So Yah is saying to break up your ground so that you can receive this culture that I'm trying to give you, this belief. This is what I'm trying to give you. We prepare your heart so that I can get this, so that there can be a harvest and that you can bear fruit that looks like the kingdom.
Don't you think each family is like has a little culture of its own within each family? You know.
Get your own.
Yeah, because you're creating your own everything.
Yeah.
Your own rules, your own standards.
And even though you're a part of a larger culture, you have a culture within your family.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So we're combating against a whole lot of different things. It's a lot of things that we have to challenge because we grew up in a family that had its own culture. You grew up in a community, a neighborhood that had a culture. You know what I mean? And then you growing up in under a church has a culture. So depending on what kind of church you came up in, that was a whole culture. You know, so then you have the overall American culture. African American culture is different from American culture in different ways. So it's like you have all these different things that have cultivated you and formed you. You know, so when we come to Yah, we present our bodies as a living sacrifice, set apart and well pleasing to Yah, our reasonable worship. And Yah says, well, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you can test and prove what is His desire and will. So we have to surrender all those things at His feet to say, okay, Yah, show me. I give this to you. Now you show me. How do I live this thing out? How do I receive your word and walk this out based on who you are and what you're calling me to, what the kingdom culture is? And that's where we come across a lot of the challenges, because we want to hold on to a lot of things that we have become accustomed to. You know, so that's the challenge, and that's the challenge in our walk, is being able to surrender those things, and to allow Yah to give us what He wants us to have. Turn to James 4. James chapter 4. So we have to challenge the cultural norms by looking at the underlying beliefs and the mindsets that are driving those norms, and comparing it to the Torah, comparing it to what Yah, his teachings are. Chapter 4. I'm going to start at verse 1. Chapter 4. It says, verse 1. It says, where do fightings and strivings come from among you? Do they not come from your pleasures that battle in your members? You desire and do not have. You murder and are jealous and are unable to obtain. You strive and fight, and you do not possess because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask evilly in order to spend it on your pleasures. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with Elohim? Whoever therefore intends to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of Yah. Or do you think that the scripture speaks to no purpose? Does the spirit which dwells in us intensely crave unto envy? But he gives greater favor, because this he says, Elohim resists the proud, but gives favor to the humble. So then subject yourselves to Elohim, resist the devil, he shall flee from you. Come near to Yah, and he shall draw near to you. Cleanse hands, sinners, and cleanse the hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to dejection. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Master, and he shall lift you up. So it says, cleanse your hands and cleanse your hearts. And then it says double-minded. So it's saying a lot of the fighting within us comes from having a double mind. We have a mind has desires that's attached to things in the world, or ways of the world, or mindsets of the world. So we have those things that battle within us, and then it's Yah's word. So those things are at odds with each other. So it says when we attach ourselves to the world in those ways, if we put ourselves in enmity, we make ourselves an enemy to Yah.
Yeah.
So those things are battling within us. So he says to draw near to Yah, and Yah will draw near to us. And it says to cleanse our hands and to cleanse our hearts, so that we won't be double-minded. So that's what Yah is doing. He's trying to cleanse up the double mind. And it's not even, there's some things that we intentionally battle with. But there's other things that we struggle with, and it's like, well, why is this so hard? Why is this such a struggle? Because there's some kind of underlying belief that we have that's at odds with what it should be. You know, so some kind of thing is within us that desires something that's a way of the world. You know, and it's not necessarily a thing. It could be just a mindset. It's these underlying things. Well, I think that things should be this way. You know, and I think that I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. Or I think that, you know, just it's the little minute things is what causes us to struggle. It causes us to fight against things. So it's those things that Yah wants us to lay at His feet, and those are the things that Yah wants to continually challenge in us. One of the things that is an issue when it comes to building community. It says many of the underlying beliefs in America and most of the subcultures in America is based on individualistic values and self-progression. Individualistic values and self-progression instead of collective values and group sustainability.
Yeah, that's true.
So America is based on individual progress. It's about me getting mine, getting my peace, and moving forward at whatever odds. You know, so that's the mindset. It's in the world, it's in the church, and the church is your personal relationship with Yah, and you don't need nobody else. That song always comes to my mind. Long as I got King Jesus, I don't need nobody else. Like, you know, we sung that thing. That's right.
Yes, sir.
Why? Because we mad at people. We're hurt by people. No, I don't need nobody else. As long as I got him.
I got you.
You know, that's
the reason why it
completely
was written.
right. Completely contrary to Yah.
Yeah.
Completely contrary. It's not compatible at all. You know, but that's the mindset. So it's an individualistic self-progression. Whatever I got to do to climb the ladder, you know, break away from the community, do whatever I got to do. That's what I got to do to succeed is what I need to do. Yeah. And that goes back to the worship evolving around, like you said, Baal.
Right.
God of Mammon. You know,
Right.
this society revolves around money. It's a
Yes.
capitalistic
Period.
society.
Yes.
Period. Yeah. Like
And the love of it is the root of evil.
Yep. And that is the center of this. Everything from the holidays, everything revolves around.
Yep.
Everything, and the pursuit of it.
Yeah.
And that's the individualistic self-progression. And that's, if we're not careful, we take that, because I've seen that culture is turned right into the church.
Oh, yes.
And it runs like a marketplace.
Yes.
You know, and that's the question I asked about how much of my lifestyle would fall with Babylon. In Revelation 18, I won't go to it. It's on your paper, but it talks about when Babylon falls. It talks about how the merchants and how all the merchants and things of the world wept, and how they, everything fell, because when Babylon falls, everything else fell, and they were intricately dependent on these things succeeding. So if you are intricately involved in it, then you are invested in its success. You know, so to the degree that we're wrapped up in it, we're going to want to see it succeed, even though it's completely contrary to Yah, and Yah just want to destroy it. You know, so like you said, versus the other mindset is collective values for group sustainability. So and it's especially bad here in the West. If you go to the East, there's more cultures that haven't been influenced by the West, have more of a group mindset. They're more for the sustainability of the group. You know, so but when American values go over there, even when people come over here, you'll see like first generation people that come here from their land, and then their children grow up, and they're like, and it's a battle because the children start taking on American culture. You know, and they go against the family values that are more collective, that are dealing with the family, the group, and the community, and that's looking at the whole. And they start to have that battle going back and forth because they take those values on. So it's more of a competitive thing versus cooperative, which is what Yah toward our culture is, something that's cooperative, and that's concerned about the advancement of the group, or really the sustainability of the group. It's not so much focused on progress. Like we got to go forward. We got to do more. We got to add more. That was that ladder climbing, or the Tower of Babel type of thing. Like we have our own agenda. We're trying to reach this. When Yah is when a group mindset is about the group sustainability of the group versus one person's, elevation. So it's like, it's not, if I stay with the group and the group stays here, that's acceptable. You know what I mean? The group is sustainable and able to maintain itself versus, okay, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go make my progress and go do what I got to do, and you leave the group behind. So it's a whole different mindset in these values, and those are some of the things that God wants to break. Turn to Acts chapter 2.
Is that 28?
I'm
What is
gonna
that?
start at verse 1 and then I'm gonna go over to
Okay. Acts 2.
Acts chapter 2, verse 1, it says, "And when the day of the festival of Shavuot had come, they were all with one mind in one place."
Yeah.
Praise God.
They were all with one mind in one place. And we know that it says that this is where the Spirit of Yah, and suddenly there came a sound from the heaven as a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared to them divided tongues as a fire, and settled on each one of them. And they were all filled with the set-apart Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them to speak. Now in Jerusalem there were dwelling Yehudim, dedicated men from every nation under the heaven. So these were
Right.
from different nations or whatever. They all came together, and but the ones who walked with Yahushua, those who he told them to wait until I send the Spirit. He told them to wait.
Right.
So they were together with one mind and one spirit when Yah brought this to them.
Yes.
So let's turn over to verse 40. And it says, "And with many other words he earnestly witnessed and urged them, saying, Be saved from this crooked generation. Then those indeed who gladly received his word were immersed, and on that day about 3,000 beings were added to them. And they were continuing steadfastly in the teaching of the emissaries, which is the apostles, and in the fellowship, and in the breaking of bread, and in prayers. And fear came upon every being, and many wonders and signs were being done through the emissaries. And all those who believed were together and had all in common."
Yeah.
They were together and had all in common, and sold their possessions and property, and divided them among all, as anyone might have need. And day by day continuing with one mind in the set apart place, and breaking bread from house to house, and they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising Yah and having favor with all the people. And the master added to the assembly those who were being saved day by day. And that's very much, that's a contrast to how the rest of the culture is.
Yes.
They were together, they had one mind, they had all in common. We read over that, they had all in common. But think about that. They sold all their possessions and property.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was contrary to, so they were under the Roman Empire, and this system that operated the way, because when they were looking for Yahushua to come bring the kingdom, they're like, are you coming to bring the kingdom now? Because they're trying to come from underneath this Roman oppression. It's like, we're in a system now, it's like, this is not working.
It's the same Roman oppression.
It's the same system that's just continued on.
Right.
And we're waiting for the king. We look at the kingdom as a spiritual thing, but they were looking at it as a actual, overthrow this government that we're under, so that we can,
because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Our kingdom is going to overthrow it.
Yeah.
And we
Literally.
do. And we do need to literally start pushing and going towards kingdom living. Which is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's a spiritual thing because you can't see it, but eventually it should be manifested in what we do and who we are.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's
And people should see the kingdom.
that when they say Christian, because they don't know any one of a better word, they should be talking about these Hebrew people have their own kingdom. They have their own place. you know.
It takes because what they see the natural thing, but they see the underlying mindset behind it. That's what's the amazing thing is, like, they did what?
Who had a deeper knowledge so that I could learn.
Because God's ways
Higher.
are radically different.
Radically.
I felt like the word radical for Christ. And radical, I looked at the word radical. Radical means being far-reaching and thorough, and it means affecting the fundamental nature of something.
Yes.
Affecting the fundamental nature of something. I mean, you completely changing the way that it functions. That's like changing a microwave into a refrigerator. You know what I'm saying? You're changing it fundamentally.
Affecting the fundamental nature. That was the word.
Affecting the fundamental nature of something.
I'm sorry, people listening to the teaching, and I could keep interrupting. People on the thing.
Far-reaching and thorough.
Affecting the foundation, the fundamental nature
of something.
Yeah, so we're supposed to be radical. Like, when you really following y'all, like, the fundamental nature of you is going to be changed, and the way that you operate is going to be fundamentally different from the world. Like you say, the whole world is going into one direction.
Yeah.
And you're going in a whole completely different direction.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why this opposition, this opposition within you, this opposition coming towards you, so when y'all does something, it's fundamentally different. So what they were doing, what we just read, was a threat to the empire that they were under. That's why it's remember back in the day, I can't remember the name of that little red book, but it talked about communism.
That was Cho. The book by Cho.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name of it. But I know it was a little red book.
Yeah.
It was about communism. And it got banned.
It was Cho. Yeah.
With communism, which is a communal type of living. So they were like, this is the devil. Get this out of here. We got to ban that, because if you change the minds of the people and cause them to think differently, that's how governments get overthrown.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we don't. This democracy thing, this capitalism thing is not working for us. This is a different way that we can set this up so that it'll work for the people, and not just for the elite. So, this type of thing was happening during this time. It's like, okay, you got these thousands of people, and it's a verse that came to my mind. I don't know where it's at, so I'm not going to try to find it. But they were talking about, I don't know if it was Pilate, they were talking about Yahusha before they executed him. They were talking about something, and they were saying, like, basically, like, we let this stuff rise up, it's going to overthrow, it's going to cause us to lose our power or whatever. But this kind of mindset, this type of mindset, this is kingdom mindset, because it's concerned about the whole.
That's right.
So it might have been some rich, we talked about the rich young ruler who kept the commands of Yah. Yeah. But he was a rich young ruler, and Yahusha said, well, sell all your belongings and follow me. And he was like,
couldn't do that.
See you later.
Yeah.
You done gone too far. You trying to fundamentally change me in ways that I'm not trying to change. Because he was concerned about himself, and he's like, okay, that's good, but sell all your belongings and come follow me. That was a whole different. That was going too far. And so we see that that's exactly what they were doing here. They sold all that they had and divided them so that everyone had their needs met.
That's right.
And flip over to chapter 4, verse 32. And this is continuing in the same frame. It says, and a group of those who believed were of one heart and one being. Yeah. And no one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, but they had all in common. That takes a total, that's like, everybody here has a car. That's like me saying, my car is not my own.
Right.
You're free to use it whenever you need to.
It. Yeah.
And that's a problem for most people. It's like, well,
that's a major problem.
This is my vehicle. I pay for it. I got to, this is that. And
if you tear it up,
I don't know how you drive. And
I don't know how you drive. That would be me right there.
So when they're saying, though, it says, no one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, but they had all in common. And with great power, the emissaries gave witness to the resurrection of the Master Yahusha, and great favor was upon them all. So because of this, they had favor on them. Yeah. For there was not anyone needy among them, for all who were possessors of lands or houses sold them and brought the price of what was sold, and laid them at the feet of the emissaries, and they distributed to each as anyone had need.
That's right.
So they all took what they had and gave it up. So they may have had big houses. That's like, you got a big house, you got land, you got all these things going on. You take it and sell it so that all of the community, the whole city can have, everybody have needs. So you may have to come down some notches, but that means the other people that are all the way down can come up.
So that's the
Right.
whole thing with being here. It's funny because I was having the same conversation night before last. And the capitalistic individual mindset of America, it's like when I sat and really thought about just Amazon alone could feed America.
Girl.
I mean, one company,
One company.
who's making multi-billion dollars
Yeah.
in 1 year, there would be not a hungry belly in this whole country,
Yeah.
probably for weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and to think about, that's just, I mean, that's the highest grossing company in this nation right
country,
now.
Yeah.
But the ones that are under them are not far from that. And it's like, that's just them. That's just 5
Yeah.
businesses.
And New York tried to push them. New York pushed them out. They wanted to put they wanted to put one of their headquarters in New York, and it would have landed 25,000 jobs. And the politics of that part of New York, I'm trying to think of where it was, pushed them out, voted them out, and said no, they couldn't come there.
But it's just, it saddens me
It
that
is.
because we live so excessively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we don't just have a car.
Yeah.
The rich have to have 5 Lamborghinis. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, not
Right.
5
Right.
a Honda Accord or
Yeah.
Camry. Or, so, you know, like regular,
Yeah.
just,
Gotta have
you know what I'm
5
saying?
of
They
the
gotta
top.
have
That's
the best, the most expensive,
Toys.
the most, you know, of stuff that they won't even
Toys.
drive, or like houses and boats, and you're wasting money on paying a staff to upkeep places that you're not even in. Right, and so I'm just like, it made me want to pull my hair out the more I thought about it, because it's like, oh, a handful of businesses and people in just this country, we
Yeah.
ain't talking about the world,
right.
just this country could take care of the poor
Yeah.
And you
without
know,
welfare,
Rome
without
doesn't have people laying on the streets. Italy, they don't have the hungry laying around. People take them in. They have a system where if their relatives can't take them in, somebody takes them in and helps them get on their feet.
But I think, you know, when we watch other countries
That's the
be
European
successful
way.
with stuff like that, we see other countries successful with healthcare, with
Yeah.
that an Obamacare mindset where everybody gets healthcare, you know, everything going under one pop, you know, whatever. Like, when we see other countries successfully taking care of people
Yeah.
as a whole, you know, they may have some other issues and it's not completely godly, but they have a community mindset to take care of the whole.
Of people.
And I'm saying
people,
that
not
these
businesses.
are human lives.
Yeah.
People, not things. Like people. And that's when I get the scripture of that the love of it.
Yeah.
It's diabolical, yo. Like, it will make you kill
Mm-hmm.
people, take people's whole lives
Yeah.
for $1.
Yeah.
And you have billions of them. It ain't like this your last dollar. You know, somebody asking you to give away. You got enough money by yourself to feed America for a month.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy to me.
It is crazy.
And but it's you know, I can't imagine how y'all feels, because we're his children
Yeah.
and we're killing one another because of this individual non-community, don't care about you,
Yeah.
I care about me, the American dream that everybody sleep to. You know, it's just like it. I was sitting on the phone and I was just like, it was like my mind just was. It began to just like unfold, and you know how like when you think about, you know, and then this and then that, you know, and you just like.
There goes that song from Pearlie, the big fish eat the little fish, and the little fish eat the littlest fish. And the littlest fish eat the little fish, and that's the way it goes.
And
That's how the
I'm not gonna make
system.
no more comments, but
That's how the system operates.
Yeah.
But
the
that's not his way.
gentleman who came up with medicine that's taking care of cancer in Canada, not chemo, not radiation, none of that, but they founded medication that is taking tumors and shrinking them quick. America got wind of it, some other company got wind of it, copied it, of course under another name, and is billing 6,000 or some 60,000, something, no, 6,000 per pill. Everybody bought
I haven't
that.
seen nothing. 'Cause
I know.
I bought the
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Don't make no sense.
Human lives, human lives.
That's the system,
human,
though.
and that's when you look at it and you go, we talking about getting people well.
Yeah, for life.
For
But Baal is Satan's right hand man, and he does not want people to get well. He does not want people to get on their feet. He does not want people to have anything, because then they might take over those at the top, quote unquote. But that's why we are at work in the kingdom, because we are preparing those that are within the kingdom, and one of our goals is to prepare those in the kingdom for the coming of our King, because that's going to be the kingdom that rules. And we have to be in a mindset of doing things his way in order to make that preparation possible. It's like this thing right here. The house of bondage, Egypt, wilderness, preparation, promised land, Canaan. We are in between preparation, the wilderness, and the promised land right now. The promised land is the kingdom. That's how I look at it personally. It's the kingdom. It's when it's really seen for what it is.
Yeah.
But right now, we're in between the wilderness and the promised land because our eyes are blinded. Some of our eyes are still blinded. You know, I sent letters all over the county for the first ecclesia meeting, and not one church, not just responded, but even acknowledged receiving, getting a letter. And I'll send them out again, you know, but it's going to take more than that. And only he can show us what we need to reach that. Because it's not so much that they don't want to, some of them don't want to come even out of curiosity, but they're afraid of what somebody else is going to say if they come. So it doesn't make any sense, because our churches have become politicized as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The same system, and that's what Yahushua was when he was with his disciples, he was trying to get them out of that mindset. It's like the nations rule over each other.
Yeah.
And that's so with you, the greatest among you is those who serve. You know,
That's right.
Each other, your brothers. You know what I mean? So he was trying to get that because they're like, well, who's gonna be the greatest? You know, they had that same mindset at that moment. You know, which
Who's
one
gonna be the
sitting at
greatest?
the side of, you know, same mindset. He's like, no. That's why he made it a point. He washed their feet. So you know, the greatest among you serves. You know, so he was trying to work on that mindset. And he kept talking to them about love. You know, as I have loved you, you love each other.
Yes.
You know, so trying to take them down and teach them the right mindset, because they were part of that system that was going around them, that everything was wicked. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all these things. So like you said, when he says the kingdom is at hand, the kingdom is in your midst.
Yes.
It's this inner transformation that we have to have in the midst of all of this.
Yes.
To not succumb to that same mindset. And to be radically different. So he says, and then when you see a community of people that embrace that collectively, Echad, as one, then you'll see me. You'll see
Right.
Yah because you're gonna see something that don't look like everything else around you. You know, you're gonna see.
They confuse that with being poor. You know, so even they don't have an idea as to how to teach the kingdom, because he was a king walking amongst us.
Yeah, that was Yahushua talking to the church of Laodicea. It says, because you say that rich I am and I am made rich,
Yeah.
need none at all, and do not know that you are wretched and pitiable and poor and blind and naked.
Yes.
And I advise you to buy from me gold refined in fire, so that you become rich, and white garments, so that you become dressed. So that
Yes.
the shame of your nakedness might not be shown, and anoint your eyes with ointment, so that you see.
Amen.
So during that time, during this particular assembly that he's talking to, this particular group thinks that they're rich.
Yeah.
This is the one he said that because you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You're not hot or cold.
Either hot or cold.
They think that they're rich because of those other things, but he's saying that you're the complete opposite. You're poor and you're blind. You can't even see.
Yeah.
Because if they truly were rich, they'd be living like they truly were rich in those outward things. That they'd be living like what we just saw. They'd be
Yeah.
giving and building up a community.
Right.
So he's saying you don't even see how blind that you are, how you're really poor, and you're naked, you're unclothed. But if you buy gold refined in the fire, that is going to be refined through the fire.
Yes.
You put on these white garments. If you go through these things that are going, and that's what his people are going through. We're going through trials and different things that are refining us in the fire, so that we're coming out gold as we're going through these things. So as we're going through this, and he puts those white garments on us, we become covered. And he says, and he's going to anoint your eyes with ointment so that you see.
Yes.
So he's opening our eyes so that we can see the kingdom.
Yes.
Past all the things that we think is going to make us rich, and the things we think give us our value. And he's showing where the real true value really is.
Yes. Amen. And that's the church of today, Laodicea. Neither hot or cold.
On the paper that I gave out today, it says love in Torah culture. And it says in Torah culture, love looks at what's best for us, we, and not just me, because I am not separate from us.
That's good.
That's awesome.
And that's Torah's version of love. Looks at what's best for us and we, because you understand that you're not that there is only us and we.
Right.
You're not separate. Like I am not separate from the whole.
Right.
Turn to John 17. So we know that it's the world is celebrating Valentine's Day today. The apostle gave out the handouts, giving information about Valentine's Day. And I was looking up Cupid. He said that Cupid is the god of desire, erotic love. Yeah. So it says he's the god of desire and erotic love. This
Yeah.
feeling, this passionate love, this, I love
Yeah.
you. And it says that he is he's portrayed as the son of the love goddess Venus and the war god Mars. And I was like, well, don't that explain a lot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So your mother and father is love and war.
Yes.
And isn't that what love looks like?
Yeah.
And the way that we experience love, it's a battle between love and war. It's love, hate.
Cupid is like you said, it's very deceptive.
Yeah, so the type of love that's wrapped up in that, it reflects the relationships that we have. And it also says that the arrows, the bow and the arrow, when you're hit with that, it puts an uncontrollable desire.
Right.
So it's supposed to be like it hits you with an uncontrollable desire. So
It's
your
a
love is based
weapon.
on this thing that's out of control.
Yeah, that's real.
Darkness.
Yeah, everything is rooted in where something originates from will determine the fruit that comes out of it.
That's
So
good.
because of the love, that love is originating from something that's not of Yah. the fruit of that love. I mean, we seen it, experienced it. Like it's not based on the fruit of the spirit. The fruit of the spirit is not an uncontrollable desire.
That's right.
The fruit of the spirit is self-control.
That's
love,
right.
Peace, patience. You know what I mean? So those things are demonstrations of love that comes from the right source, which is Yah.
The spirit, fruit of the spirit.
Yeah.
That's his fruit.
So the love that we're relearning love.
Yes.
Yeah.
We tend to express love as in through the eyes of what we receive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love them, you know, because they X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
I just love, you know, I just love you. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you X, Y, and Z to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But when you really love somebody, love gives.
That's right.
Yes.
Love gives.
Yes, it does.
Amen.
Yes.
I'm gonna go through some of this real quick. So we're talking. I said turn to John 17. We read this. I think last week or the week before.
Week before.
John 17. When he was just telling them. I'm just gonna skip to verse 21. It says, so you know, we started 15. I do not pray that you should take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the wicked one. They are not of the world. We're talking about being not of the world.
Yeah.
As I am not of the world.
Yeah.
Set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. So set them apart from the world. Set them apart. Set them apart from the world. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I send them into the world. And for them, I set myself apart so that they too might be set apart in truth. I do not pray for these alone, but also for those believing in me through their word, so that they all might be one. As you, Father, are in me, and I in you, so that they too might be one in us, so that the world might believe that you have sent me. And the esteem which you gave me, I've given them, so that they might be one as we are one.
Yes.
I in them, you in me, so that they might be perfected into one, so that the world knows that you have sent me and have loved me, and you have loved me.
That's it.
Okay, so
That's it.
so we're talking about being one.
That's the bottom
So
line.
we are talking about being Echad. So being Echad is being one. So this is the Aleph. This is the modern Hebrew. This is the pictograph. This is what it is. So this is the Aleph, the Het, and the Dalet. So this is the word Echad, which means one. So the Aleph and the Het. Aleph is a strong leader. It's the strength, it's the leader, it's the power. And Het is a wall, it's the tent wall. So Aleph Het is a strong wall, which this right here, the Aleph and the Het is Ak, which means brother. So a brother is a strong wall. It's the wall that keeps the enemy outside, that protects the house, it keeps the enemy outside of the house. So Ak, brother, the strong wall, keeps the enemy outside of the house. So it protects that which is within the wall. Okay, so Echad, Aleph, Het, Dalet, one. So you'll see a lot of Hebrew words, they're connected, like just like in English words with the root. So this Ak is a root of Echad, being one. So so everything in Hebrew is going to be talking about family. It's going to be talking about the house. The whole point of everything is the house, the whole, the one that Yahushua said he's bringing us into, because Yahushua's bringing us into the house.
Yeah.
So the Dalet is the door. So we have the Aleph, the Het, the Dalet. So we have the Aleph, which I'll come back to that. So we have the strength of the wall, the strong wall. Then we have the Dalet, which is the door. So coming into the door, so if you have a house, you know they have like tents. You have a house, you have the walls, and then you have the door.
That's okay.
So the walls of the house, and then you have the door. You have the strong leader, the strength of the house, which is the father, which is the father, the physical father, which is Yahuwah.
Right.
Both. You have the father that's in the house. You have the strong walls, which is the brothers, which is those who are in the house.
Yeah.
Because it's Ak, and then it's Akoti, his sister. So the brother, the sister. So you have that in the strong walls of the house, the father, the power of the house, and then you have the dalet, the door, which Yahusha is the door to the house.
Yeah, that's good.
Ikad, you're one. He said, as I am in you, as the Father is in me, and I'm in the Father, and I desire for you to be one in us.
Mm-hmm.
So he's bringing us into this house. So we are one. We are Ikad. We are a house. So that's what that's the Father of the house. Yahusha is the door of the house, and we are the strength inside the house.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
The strong walls. So there's a division. A wall divides that which is inside of the house from that which is outside of the house.
Yes.
And when you have the strength, the brothers, the sisters, the Aleph, who's the father, and then you have the brothers and sisters who's a strong wall. You have this inside the house that's protecting the house from those outside the house.
You know,
So-
that takes me to the scripture about the strong man.
Mm-hmm.
But not the strong man that comes against you. But if the father is asleep at night and someone comes to wrong the house, him getting up and him protecting the house and all of that, you need to start teaching it. You need to start teaching this to everybody. I think that's the next step.
Yeah.
Begin to teach the writings
Yeah.
because it's bringing out scripture. Scripture is just coming up to where I see this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just pray that he let me remember
Yeah.
when we start teaching.
He will, because it'll start coming alive. That's why I was saying I like the pictographic because
That help. It
it
does.
helps. It helps
Yeah.
to remember it. And I'm not a Hebrew scholar. I'm just trying to learn. But when I do the pictograph, like it brings it alive. You'll see how it's all connected and it's all painting a picture.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at love, ahaba, ahab is the root of love of the word ahaba is love. So we have the aleph again, then we have the hey, the bet, and the hey. So the aleph is still the father,
Mm-hmm.
but aleph, bet, ab. This is one of the roots in the word ahaba is aleph bet, which is ab, which is the father.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have another root in here is the bet and the hay, which means is hab, which means to give. So the aleph again is the strength and the power of the house. The hay is to behold the house. So to behold, to see. So the aleph bet, the ab beholds the house. He beholds the house. He's the protector of the house.
Mm-hmm.
He gives to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So the father gives to the house. So he paints the picture of, so Yah, we say Yah is love. He paints the picture of love by giving to the house.
Yeah, that's good.
So this bet, hey bet, this hab is to look towards the house, behold the house, provide for the house, which is the family. So you're providing for the house. This is the role of the father. We see this in the natural. You see this in the spirit. Yah provided for the house.
Right.
He provides for the family.
Right.
He's the protector of the house and the family. So that is how he showed us love, by doing that. And he completed so we see that love is to give. So we see that Yah, we love Yah. It says we love him because he first loved us. So he gave to us first.
Mm-hmm.
And now we become a part of that love. And now we're able to give love to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to give love back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's good.
Mm-mm-mm.
So what Yah gave us, what else did he give us? He gave us his word. He gave us the Torah. He said, this is your wisdom and understanding as to how to run the house.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's beautiful. Isn't that something?
Yes, it is.
And he says, when you love me, you obey my commands.
Right.
And that's expressing the love towards each other.
Wow.
Can't women understand that? Is to have to run the house.
Okay, so wait a minute. So Aleph is the father.
Aleph is, it means strong leader.
Strong leader.
And the Aleph Bet together, Aleph Bet is father. And that's one of the roots in the word.
But the picture of the man, hey,
Is behold.
to behold. And
And then that
the
bet,
swirly one
The
is
Bet is the tent, is the house.
that's the tent, right?
so you're saying that the strong leader, how does it break down again?
The strong leader beholds the house. He looks upon the house.
And that, you know, includes cares for, protects. I like that Torah is our wisdom and understanding as to how to run the house. That's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful?
And that was what we read Deuteronomy 4 last week.
Right.
He said, "This is your wisdom." When he first built them together as a house, when he built Yisrael, when he put them together, he said, "This is your wisdom." When he gave them the Torah, this is your wisdom and your understanding. The nations will look and see what greater nation is this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he loved them and gave them the way to love him. Love me with all your heart and all your might and all your strength.
Right.
And the example of that is loving each other by the way that I gave you through the Torah, through the teachings. I'm teaching you how to love each other. This is the house. Even when you look at it, you know, anybody that has children, you know that that's how your household runs. You
Right.
give stuff that's going to make the household operate and function in love. And
So your card
Yakad
comes
comes from Yakad.
it is Ikad is the root for your card?
Yep, Yakad.
Okay.
It just has the yod at the beginning, the yod. So this is I forget my
Yod, Chet, Dalet.
yod, chet, dalet. So yakad means together in unity. So the scripture we read last week, that was on your notes from last week, that said how
Good and
good and
pleasant,
pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together.
Psalm 133.
Yep, Psalm 133. For brothers to dwell together in unity. That together in unity is yakad. Together in unity. The yod, and here we have again the wall and the door. And the yod is an arm, means to work, to worship, or to throw. So we see a little difference that this has work involved in it.
Yes, sir.
And it also connotates worship. So you see, so what's the difference between Yakad and Yakad? So we can be Yakad. Yakad is we stand in a circle. We're all together. We're in unity. We're together. We're all Yakad. We're separate things together. But Ikad is being all one.
One.
So you're just being one.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Yakad together. How beautiful it is to be able to be together. But to be together, Ikad, to be one, coming into this whole oneness. This is the being of one mind, one spirit, one being, one with Yah. So to the degree
and I'm sorry, because I'm trying to write it exactly the way I did it before. So, you said the yod is the working arm.
it's an arm, and it means work or worship or to
Throw.
Okay, so you would interpret that. I know it means unity, but I'm saying like, how would you interpret like you did before?
So we have the same root here,
The
the
wall
dollar,
and
and
the
the
tent.
wall, and the wall of the tent, and the door. So the wall and the door, and so it's the same root there. That just has the yod at the beginning. So
it's like worshiping together. Is it like worshiping together?
it could
or
be
working
it could
together?
be working together.
Working and worshiping.
Work in it. I see it like at the end result of it is worship. You know what I mean? Like when you look upon it, just like it says, blessed how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. It's like the precious oil on the head running down on the beard of Aharon. So a couple of things from that. The oil is a mixture. First of all, it's a mixture that's and it's an anointing that's happening because Aharon is the high priest running down the beard of Aharon. Then it says running down on the collar of his robes, and it says like the dew of Hermon that comes down on the mountain of Zion. For there Yahuwah commanded the blessing, life forever. So the dew of Mount Hermon. So Mount Hermon was above the other mountains in Zion, and the dew would come down. So it would be very dry in that region. But when the dew came down from Mount Hermon, it would trickle down to the other mountains, and it would give water to the vegetation so that it will bear fruit and grow. So when that came down, so y'all's comparing. So he's comparing how dwelling together in unity, comparing it to dew coming down and nurturing and moisturizing the vegetation there on the mountains that's in a dry place or whatever. It's trickling down from the high mountain down to the other mountains, and it's giving it moisture so that it can bear fruit, basically.
I love it.
It's awesome. It makes so much sense too.
That is it. That's it. That is sense. That is sense. That's what sense is.
That's what sense is.
It makes sense what it is. You know what I'm saying? That is the bottom line of discovery and understanding and communication with Yah. I'm all right. I'll be all right. I'm just excited.
And this is like when I talk about Hebrew being concrete, like everything has a meaning that's concrete that you can see.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So we don't go far over here and far over there with different things. Like it comes down to a meaning.
Okay.
Worshiping together. It's like the working and the worship that comes together to create the unity.
Right, of the house.
Of the house.
Right.
Yeah. But I know what you're saying. If I come up with something better,
Okay.
I'll come back to you. I just
Okay.
I can't right there.
No, it's understood.
And I'm still putting this together myself.
I got it, man. I got it.
But what was I going to say about shalom? So to the degree that we know shalom is complete, it's peace, but it's completeness, it's wholeness. Okay.
Right.
So wholeness and oneness. So to the degree that we are not one with Yah, that we're not one with the Torah, that we're not one with ourselves, with each other, it's to the degree that we are lacking in shalom. So shalom is the whole with all the pieces in it.
Yes.
So to the degree that we're lacking in to the degree that we're not ikad, that we're not one, there's the dividing wall. We find ourselves on the other side of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So we're missing. So there's incompleteness. There's no shalom because we find ourselves at some part of our life we're on the other side of the wall. Because this is always concrete. There's no breach in Yah's house. But sometimes we find ourselves on the other side of the wall, on the dividing side of either with Yah, or because we're not in agreement with some part of the Torah, we find ourselves on the other side, and then as a result, we find ourselves out of fellowship with each other because to that degree we're not complete in that area. We don't have shalom.
Right. Right.
That's very clear.
But I'm in the house. I'm in agreement. I'm your card and I'm your card. I'm excited.
Alright. So I had a bunch of scriptures, but it was late, so I'm going to go to 1 John.
Let's see.
In here, I believe.
1 John 2.
Let me see. Whew. I haven't had the whole book, like really read the whole book of 1 John. It's not long. It all goes together and it all talks about this concept.
Oh man, I'm getting so much revelation. Wait, Holy Spirit, wait.
I'll read 2:15 through 17. It says, do not love the world, nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, gives themselves to the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And the scripture says you can't love the Father and
Amen. Yeah.
because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. Gosh, I really want to read all this, but
We'll read it.
14. We know that we have passed out of death into life because we love the brothers. The one not loving his brother stays in death. Everyone hating his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has everlasting life staying in him. But by this we have known love, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers.
Yes.
And it ties to the other. But whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his tender affections from him, how does the love of Elohim stay in him? My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. And by this we know that we are of the truth. It shall set our hearts at rest before him. It says, do not love in deed and do not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. We know our love got to be, I love you, got to go further than, I love you. It said in deed and in truth.
Yes.
Yahushua said, I set you apart in the truth. We have to put this back up. I want to read about it so much.
Yeah, this is so good.
I'm trying to find the one. It's First John. John's talking about love and the love for each other in this whole book, and I'm finding and in the other scriptures that I had down here, I find that that's what it's all really talking about. That's what it's all really talking about. He's trying to teach them who are coming out of this dispersion, who are coming out of teaching those of us that are coming out of the dispersion, and then the Gentiles that are coming in, teaching them how to love differently from what they've learned in the world. And this is like this is what makes us his.
Verse 19, by this we shall know that we are of the truth, and set our heart at rest before him, whenever our heart condemns us. For Yah is greater than our heart and knows all things. Woo!
What did you, Apostle?
I started at 19.
John 2?
I just read some of it down to 20.
Chapter 5, verse 1.
Chapter 5, verse 1.
No, chapter 4.
Chapter
Go with
4.
chapter 4. We'll end with this. We have known and believed the love that Elohim has for us. Elohim, Yah is love, and he who stays in love stays in Yah, and Yah in him. By this love has been perfected with us, in order that we might have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world.
Yes, sir.
There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear.
Yes.
Because fear holds punishment, and he who fears has not been made perfect in love. We love him because he first loved us. If someone says, I love Yah, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For the one not loving his brother whom he has seen, how is he able to love Yah whom he has not seen?
That's right.
And we have this command from him, that the one loving Yah should love his brother too.
You know, this helps me so much, because I feel even safer now and even closer, because I am in, not this house, but I am in his house. I'm in his family. I'm one with him.
Yeah.
Putting it in the writing, as far as the picture and how the dialect goes in writing, it shows me that I am safe. This is just taking my faith.
Yeah.
Choo! You know, it's just catapulted my faith, because by what that says, I'm in the house with him, and he's keeping everybody in the household safe. especially when we join with one another. We're already one with him, or should be.
Yeah.
So the whole house is protected. Mm-hmm.
It opens up.
Mhm.
It opens things up. And, Yah wants it to be simple. He doesn't want it to be complicated. Know him, know who we are, know how to experience him. He wants it to be simple.
Right.
We complicate it so much sometimes.
Yeah, we do.
But it's simple. He's there to be known. And he wants us to experience it. And I think as he's teaching us how to become God, how to become one with each other, so you could see it more. As we walk it out and begin to demonstrate it more and begin to see it as that strong wall, as sisters and brothers, we'll see him in it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be able to look and see him.
That's right.
And that's what we should be able to look in our midst and see him.
Yeah. And when have you really been able, look at what it takes for you when you look in the Word and see him. But when you look at the writings, he's right there. I mean, it's like he's saying, I'm right here.
So obvious.
I'm right here. I'm as